Everything happens in our life. Sometimes fate throws us one trouble after another. Illnesses, quarrels with loved ones, losses, problems at work. It happens that bad events go on in a continuous streak, and then a person experiences despair. It begins to seem that life has no meaning. Despair is a negative aesthetic emotion associated with the feeling of the subject's inability to satisfy any need. Despair can lead to depression or is one of the symptoms of depression. Most often, despair is the result of a strong negative impact on a person's life. It can be the death of a loved one, a major significant failure, and so on. Realizing that he cannot control this negative influence, a person begins to think that he cannot fix this situation in any way, as a result of which he has a subjective feeling of futility, his own impotence. At turning points in life, especially if they are associated with not very joyful events, a person may experience powerlessness, fear, apathy, will lose motivation and vitality, especially if the situation is unsolvable and nothing more can be done. In this case, it is said that the person is in complete despair. Despair is a negative emotion that varies in strength and extent depending on many factors. A desperate person realizes his own helplessness and cannot resolve the situation by any means. If a person has fallen into deep despair, then he does not see a way out and further prospects, plunges into depression, a state of crisis, loses motivation, feels the meaninglessness of any of his actions. Despair causes fear, which is the result of real events or fantasies that have occurred as an unconscious reaction of the psyche. In psychology, despair can be defined as a negatively colored emotional state, which is accompanied by persistent prolonged anxiety, loss of physical strength, and impotence. As long as we go to the intended goal, we know what to do and how, we have hope in our soul, despair will not come. As soon as we stop hoping, moving forward, fighting the situation, despair overtakes us in full. Please note, a man, a woman, or a child may be in despair. This is rightfully a serious condition, but everyone can show their emotions in this way. It's normal to feel weak and helpless, but it's bad to get stuck for a long time in such conditions. Despair leads a person to hopelessness. A state of hopelessness can occur by itself and as a consequence of various mental illnesses. Negative emotions destabilize the human psyche, deprive him of the opportunity to lead a normal life, and negatively affect physical health. Most often, people can become discouraged after some tragic and highly stressful events. For example, after a loss, an emergency disaster, an episode of violence, a threat to life, or a serious illness. The symptoms of despair manifest themselves in a complex way. That is, it's not just fatigue, insomnia, sad thoughts, and depression. Plus, anxiety, panic, and hopelessness are added to everything. This situation destabilizes all spheres of life when everything collapses and the light at the end of the tunnel is not visible. Willingly or unwittingly, a person suffers in this. Despite the fact that suffering and trials give experience and growth to a person, despair is like a great point of something irrevocable. It seems to him that nothing can be changed. The only way to get rid of it is so that it does not come at all. Through love, when a person has someone to really support. There are many different situations in life when a person encounters difficulties. All of them are mostly overcome in some way, but there are also those that require special intervention. Sometimes a person does not pay attention to it himself, and it happens, or it is a combination of circumstances. But such mega difficulties cause a storm of emotions and feelings that a person cannot cope. The body and his psyche fail. He realizes that he does not know how to continue to live and move. Sometimes the reason is a small difficulty. It just became the ultimate in the system of many others, and it became the starting point of the so-called despair. It all depends on the fact that at one time a person neglected some moments. It may be a rest that is necessary. Difficulties have broken him. Perhaps he refused to help and took on a lot of unnecessary things. But sometimes fate punishes with the loss of a loved one. When he too falls into despair, any reason leads to the same result. The person remains as if alone. Therefore, it is better to experience difficult moments when someone close is nearby and knows how to hold a word or deed. Many people say that time heals, but it is more necessary for a person to live through this pain, and she no longer touched him so much. It is important to endure it, but not all lives can be predicted. There is also the expected despair when a person holds a load of problems for a long time and cannot stand it, and there is also an unplanned one when he does not depend on anything. In any case, it is important not to lose yourself and self-belief and love. All ages are submissive to love, so they have been saying for a long time. But the essence of love does not consist only in the love of a woman and a man. A person must love himself with exactly the same force, otherwise no one can love him if he does not love himself. And to love his place, his country, his business, which he is engaged in. In any relationship, whether personal or business, a person feels good when there is love, acceptance of each other. Others share his beginnings, feelings and emotions. Without a soul, there is no love, and therefore there will be chagrin, disappointment, suffering and often despair. Remember that in order to get out of the negative program, you must focus your attention on the positive aspects, on stability, on what creates a solid foundation. Mark and record any positive action. It will be difficult at first and you will literally have to look for the pros. But very soon you will feel that there is more good, and this is something weighty. What to do in moments of despair? Sit and write down the joys of the day. Then you need to reread them and praise yourself. If you want to win, then you must be able to switch your attention. By an effort of will, with the help of the environment, a psychotherapist, or in other ways, you need to distance yourself from the bad, so that it does not capture and destroy you. Don't stay alone. Do not be afraid of condemnation. Others are busy with their own affairs, and your loved ones will always support you in difficult times. To feel relief, you can not only talk, but also establish tactile contact. Accept your feelings and let them be. They are normal, and you are an adequate person. Do not hide your head in the sand. Do not deny what happened. Do not run away from your worries. Allow yourself to feel grief and despair. Only after going through this emotion will you be able to find a way out and see where to go next. If you feel anxiety and hopelessness approaching, then do not think that it will pass by itself. If nothing is done, the situation will worsen. Be sure to review your position and make the necessary changes. Despair and depression arise from the fact that a person focuses too much on one action. That is, nothing matters except one goal, and when it is not achieved, a complete collapse occurs, and if the meaning of life, as such, is missing. Therefore, in order not to burn out, not to despair, it is necessary to observe harmony in everything. Avoid skewing into one of the spheres of life. Develop several skills. Learn new things. Maintain interest. Find hobbies to your liking. Despair is a rather dangerous condition, especially if it is caused by the collapse of something important, severe stress or loss. If you notice similar symptoms in yourself or a friend, do not let them take their course. Take urgent measures and ask for help.